بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على النبي الكريم وبعد. Honorable brothers and sisters, there's a very important topic we have in the Quran, is the topic of gender interaction. And inshallah ta'ala, for me to explain this, we need at least 3 sessions like this, minimum. And if you remember, can you everybody hear me at the back? Yeah? And for us to understand this, like I said to you, we'll need to have a detailed understanding of this, because there's a lot of misunderstanding from both of the sides. Islam is not a religion that tells you that the men and women, they could just freely do whatever they want to do. At the same time, Islam is not a religion that says that men should be in one area and women should be in another area, because that is not just practical. It never happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. But the principles which is agreed by all the scholars are very important principles. Wherever you go, these principles are very important. For example, the Quran says, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُم. And then it continues, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ أَن يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنْ. Tell the believing men to lower their gazes. And then he goes on, tell the believing women to lower their gazes. So the ruling is here that the men and women, they will see each other. But if you are looking at each other with lust, then you lower your gazes. Or if you see something that is not befitting and appropriate, lower your gazes. But for a woman to be in an area secluded, or a man to be in a completely different area secluded, that is not practical. If you just do it for 10 minutes in the masjid, then the moment you go out, it's just not there. The Quranic principle is for every time, not only for 10 minutes. At the time of our Prophet ﷺ, the men and the women, they prayed in one masjid. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, he could have put a barrier on. He didn't put a barrier on. The Prophet of Allah, he taught them etiquette and taqwa, the awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you always need to observe the awareness of Allah Azza wa Jal. He made a separate door for the women, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abdullah bin Umar, he said that we didn't have many doors at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then women, they started to come into the masjid. And then the Prophet of Allah, he made a special door. He called it Babun Nisa. He said, فَمَا دَخَلْتُ مِنْ هَذَا الْبَابِ أَبَدًا. When this door, there was not written the Babun Nisa. I'm just saying that there was a door called the women entrance. And the Prophet of Allah, he made an announcement that this door is only for the women. Sometimes there is no women around, so the man is to enter from it. Abdullah bin Umar said, I've never entered from that door. Why? Because the Prophet of Allah said, this is the women's door. He's talking about his taqwa as well. But, as I said to you, men and women, they prayed in one area. And he continued until the Prophet ﷺ passed away. Abu Bakr became Khalifa. It remained like this. Umar became Khalifa. It remained like this. Uthman became Khalifa. It remained like this. Ali became Khalifa. It remained like this. Ask yourself this question. More and more women are coming into the masjid. A lot of men coming as well. How come there was no physical barrier? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he used to teach something very important, that you will interact with the women. How do you talk to them? You have to learn how to talk to them in a dignified manner. Flirting is impermissible. Yes, sexual conversation is impermissible. That's what the Prophet of Allah was teaching them. But women, you will be talking to women. Men will be talking to, and women, they'll have this interaction. It doesn't mean if the Prophet of Allah were to put them into another area and men in another area like this, then as I said to you, there's no training, there's no tarbiyah here. Because they go to the market, they'll see women everywhere. So the Prophet of Allah is teaching them that wherever you go, you have to remember that you have to talk to one another in a dignified manner. That's the most important thing. But there are certain principles which is already agreed. Number 2, first of all, about lowering the gaze. Number 2 is that men and women are not allowed to take hands with one another. The Prophet ﷺ, for example, when he used to do bay'ah, we spoke about this in Riyadus Salihin in the previous lesson, yesterday. The Prophet ﷺ in bay'ah, when they used to pledge their allegiance to Rasulullah ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ used to shake hand with every man. Men used to give their hand to the hand of the Prophet ﷺ. As for the women, he said that, أَمَّا أَنَا لَا أَتَصَفَّحْ النِّسَاء. لَا أُصَافِحْ النِّسَاء. As for me, the Prophet of Allah said, I do not shake hands with women. But the Prophet of Allah said that your bay'ah is a verbal bay'ah. It's not done physically with the hand. So these are some principles as well. Third is that a man and a woman, they should not be in an area secluded. لا يخلون رجل بامرأة إلا كان ثالثهما الشيطان. If a man and a woman in an area where a third person cannot enter, which is not a public, a private area, where a third person cannot enter, the Prophet ﷺ said, then tell them they are not alone. The third person is with them. It's called shaitan. Very dangerous. It's haram for a man and a woman. Sometimes we have this habit. Okay, someone knocks on the door and only your wife is at home, for example. And he says, Assalamu alaikum, is so and so home? He said, no, he's not home. But Ayuka, it's okay, come inside, we'll have tea. No, it's not permissible to go in unless you know there's someone else inside. There's another man inside, or there's another mature person inside. It is not, unless you are mahram, then that's a different case. We're talking about non-mahram here. But having said all of that, doesn't mean that if you see a man and a woman in a masjid, for example, talking to one another, that is haram? No. Why? Because this is a public area. Anybody could come in. So for example, some people want to speak to me. As you know, the people come to speak to me for marriage counseling. The ladies, they call me. And I said that, sister, I don't mind you coming and talking to me, but bring your husband with you. Or my husband doesn't want to come. He's the problem that I have with, so he's not coming definitely. I said, well, how is that going to be beneficial? I want him to attend this gathering as well. He said, no, he's not going to be coming. I said, okay, can you bring a son that you have, or a daughter, or a brother, or someone? Has to be mature. He has to be in the gathering as well. Because I cannot just meet you. Although it's permissible for me, I'm trying to explain to you, it is permissible for me to meet another woman on her own in the masjid, because masjid is a public area. Anybody could walk in any time. There's no private room here where I could lock it. But I still take this because it's very important for us to demonstrate our Islamic Sharia. Bring someone else. Okay? And if they don't have anyone else, I ask someone from the masjid to sit in the room so that when I do the consultation. These are Sharia guidelines we have to follow. It's for our safety. And it's for everybody else's safety as well. This is very important for us to understand. So these are the agreed principles. Okay? A man and a woman should not be alone, secluded, where a third person cannot enter. We have to take this into consideration. The Prophet ﷺ said to his companions, because a lot of the men is to go in the expedition. So women are home alone. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا يدخلن رجل على مغيبة إلا معه رجل أو اثنان. He said, no one's allowed to go and visit another woman just because the husband is away, unless you take another man with you or two. What does that mean? That means their interaction is permissible. Someone, they should do shopping. I know my brother is going on expedition. Okay, I know this sister, she cannot do shopping. So he used to go, is there any shopping that you could do? I could do it for you. The Prophet ﷺ said, that's a good niyyah. You should help. But take another person with you. Why? Because you need to stay away from the areas where people will be doubting you. This is very important. So the Prophet of Allah is saying that a man could meet another woman. It's not a problem. Okay, as long as he takes another person. The moment you take three persons, then the tuham, the places of allegation is removed now. So subhanAllah, these are all Sharia guidelines. It's very important for us to understand the Sharia guidelines. We do this, brothers and sisters, we will be safe. You will be safe. And inshallah ta'ala, like I said to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep the shaitan away. I have more to say inshallah ta'ala about this. If Allah give us another time, I will expand on this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it. Barakallahu.